Hey, I'm Kelly. If you love cars as much as I do, you're in the right place. From drifting car days to uncovering the world's most iconic rides. Gear up and subscribe to Drive with Kelly for non-stop car fun. Why do American motorcycles last for 200,000 miles while expensive bikes break down constantly? It isn't luck. We have the 9 secrets that turn your bike into an unkillable machine. From the thermal shock rule to the oil gospel, these are the rituals mechanics hate because they keep you out of the shop. Stick around to find out the hidden chemical reactions destroying your bike right now. Do not ignore this. Let's go. Number 9, the thermal shock rule. We start with the single most important habit that separates a bike that dies at 30,000 miles from one that lives to 100,000. It is the art of the warm-up, but not just idling. We are talking about avoiding thermal shock. This is pure physics, and ignoring it is the fastest way to kill an American engine. American engines are built with incredibly tight tolerances. The piston is made of aluminum alloy. The cylinder is often cast iron or aluminum plated with nickel silicon carbide. Here is the secret. Aluminum expands faster than steel or iron when heated. If you start your cold bike on a chilly morning and immediately rev it to 10,000 revolutions per minute to impress your neighbors, the piston expands instantly from the combustion heat. However, the cylinder walls are still cold and contracted because the water jacket hasn't warmed up yet. This causes the piston to literally grow larger than the hole it is sitting in. It scrapes against the cylinder wall, shaving off microscopic layers of metal. This is called cold seizure or scuffing. Over time, this creates vertical scratches in the cylinder, leading to compression loss, oil burning, and eventually a blown engine. The secret is to let the bike idle for at least 60 seconds or until the temperature gauge moves off the C or the idle RPM drops to normal. Then, you must ride gently, keeping the RPM below half of the red line for the first 5 miles. This allows the oil to reach operating temperature and allows the cylinder and piston to expand uniformly. I knew a rider named Mike who bought a brand new Harley-Davidson Street 750. Every morning, late for work, he would start it up and blast out of his driveway at full throttle, banging off the rev limiter. At 12,000 miles, barely broken in, his engine lost compression. The mechanic tore it down and found the cylinder walls looked like a record groove. Mike killed his engine with impatience. Do not be Mike. Give the metal time to breathe. Now that you know to warm up the engine, there is a fluid-sharing engine that has a secret requirement most car drivers never have to worry about. Number 8, the JASO oil gospel. You might think oil is oil. If it works in your Ford F-150, it should work in your Harley, right? That is a lie that will cost you a transmission. The reason lies in the architecture of the American engine. Unlike cars where the engine and transmission are separate units with separate fluids, American motorcycles use a unit construction where the engine, the transmission, and the clutch all share the same oil bath. Because of this, you cannot use standard car oil. Modern car oils contain friction modifiers to make them incredibly slippery for better fuel economy. In a car engine, slippery is good, but in a motorcycle, that oil bathes your wet clutch. Your clutch relies on friction to grab and transfer power. If you put that slippery car oil in your motorcycle, those friction modifiers soak into the fiber plates of your clutch. The result? The clutch starts to slip. At first, you won't notice it. Then, under hard acceleration, the revs will rise, but the bike won't speed up. The slipping generates massive heat, glazing the plates and ruining the clutch pack. The American secret is to look for the JASO MA or JASO MA2 stamp on the back of the bottle. This is the Japanese Automotive Standards Organization certification. It guarantees the oil is designed specifically for wet clutches. It has the right amount of zinc and phosphorus to protect the transmission gears from the shearing forces of a high-revving engine, but no friction modifiers that will kill your clutch. A mechanic friend of mine once had a customer bring in a Harley-Davidson with a clutch that was completely toasted at 5,000 miles. The customer swore he changed the oil regularly. When my friend analyzed the oil, it was energy-conserving 5W30 car oil. The customer saved $5 on oil and spent $500 on a new clutch pack and labor. Respect the JASO stamp. It is the gospel of longevity. Quick pause. If you didn't know about the JASO stamp or have ever put car oil in your bike by mistake, Click that like button. We are saving clutches today. Yes, we now know oil is vital, but the filter hiding it has a secret valve inside that can destroy your engine if you buy the wrong brand. Number 7. The OEM filter doctrine. You walk into the auto parts store, you see a generic neon-colored oil filter for $5. You see the OEM, original equipment manufacturer, filter for $15. You think it's just paper and metal, and you buy the cheap one. You have just made a fatal mistake. American engineers design their oil filters with a specific bypass valve pressure setting. This valve is a failsafe. When the engine is extremely cold or the filter is completely clogged, this valve opens to allow unfiltered oil to bypass the filter and lubricate the engine. The logic is that dirty oil is better than no oil. Harley-Davidson, Indian, and Victory have very specific pressure requirements for when this valve should open. Cheap generic filters often use a one-size-fits-all valve with the wrong pressure setting. If the valve opens too easily, you are constantly circulating dirty, unfiltered oil through your engine, destroying your main bearings with grit. If it opens too late, your engine starves of oil during cold starts, causing metal-on-metal contact. OEM filters use a higher quality filtration media that traps smaller particles without restricting flow. Cheap filters use cardboard glue and low-grade paper that can disintegrate under the high oil pressure of a motorcycle engine. I once tore down a Harley Milwaukee 8 engine that had spun a rod bearing. The owner had used a cheap no-name filter he bought online in a bulk pack. We cut the filter open and found the filter element had collapsed inside the casing, blocking oil flow to the crankshaft. He saved $10 on filters and lost a $4,000 engine. Stick to OEM filters or high-quality aftermarket brands like K&N or Hi-Flow Filtro that respect the factory specs. You protect the inside of the engine, but the external drive system has a hygiene problem that most riders ignore until it snaps. Number 6. The chain hygiene obsession. A chain is not just a way to move power, it is a high-speed mechanical fuse. If it snaps, it can crack your engine case, slice through your leg, or lock your rear wheel, sending you sliding down the highway at 70 miles per hour. American delivery riders who put hundreds of thousands of miles on their bikes are obsessed with chain hygiene. The secret isn't just lubrication, it is cleaning. A chain covered in sticky black gunk acts like grinding paste. The grit, sand, and road grime stick to the lube and grind away the O-rings that seal the internal factory grease. Once an O-ring fails, the internal pin dries out, gets hot, and the chain develops a kink. A kinked chain creates vibration, destroys your sprockets, and eventually fails. You must clean your chain with kerosene or a dedicated chain cleaner every 500 miles. Do not use gasoline or WD-40. Use a grunge brush to scrub the plates. Then apply a high-quality O-ring safe lubricant. Here is the pro tip. Wipe off the excess lube. You want the lube inside the rollers and on the O-rings, not flung all over your tire and wheel. A dry-looking chain is better than a wet, gritty one. There is a legendary courier in New York named Dave who rode a Harley-Davidson Street 750 for 200,000 miles. He claimed he got 40,000 miles out of a single chain and sprocket set, double the average. His secret: he wiped his chain down with a rag soaked in heavy gear oil every single night after work. He treated the chain like a gun barrel, clean and oiled. Neglect your chain and you neglect your life. Mechanical parts are tough, but there is a chemical reaction happening in your tank right now that turns fuel into glue. Number 5. The winterization ritual. Gasoline has a shelf life. Modern fuel contains ethanol. Ethanol is hygroscopic, meaning it attracts water molecules from the air. If you let your American bike sit for 3 months in the winter without treating the fuel, that ethanol absorbs moisture from the humidity in your garage. This water separates and sinks to the bottom of the tank, right where the fuel pump pickup is. This rusts the tank from the inside out. Worse, as the gas degrades, it undergoes phase separation. It turns into a thick, sticky varnish that smells like old turpentine. This varnish coats the insides of your fuel lines, clogs the tiny pilot jets in your carburetor, or blocks the microscopic nozzles in your fuel injectors. Come spring, your bike won't start, or it will run dangerously lean and overheat. The secret is fuel stabilizer. Before you park the bike for the winter, go to the gas station. Fill the tank to the very top. This minimizes the air gap, preventing condensation on the tank walls. Add a high-quality stabilizer like Stabil or Seafoam. Then, this step is key. Run the engine for 10 minutes. You need the treated fuel to flow through the lines and into the injectors or carb bowls. I bought a non-running Indian Scout for $500 once. The previous owner said the engine was blown. I opened the fuel injectors and found them glued shut with green slime, old ethanol fuel. I cleaned them and the bike ran perfectly. He sold a good bike for pennies because he didn't spend $5 on stabilizer. Don't let ethanol kill your ride. Fuel isn't the only liquid turning into acid. Your cooling system is slowly eating itself from the inside out. Number 4. The coolant flush discipline. Most riders ignore their radiator until steam is shooting out of it on the highway. But American bikes use aluminum engines and old coolant turns into acid that eats aluminum. This process is called electrolysis. Over time, the corrosion inhibitors in your coolant break down. As the fluid flows over dissimilar metals, it becomes conductive. It effectively turns your cooling system into a battery. This acidic fluid starts eating the water pump impeller, the radiator core, and the head gasket. By the time you see a leak, the internal damage is catastrophic. The American Service Manual will tell you to flush the coolant every 2 years. Do not ignore this. You must use silicate-free coolant designed for aluminum motorcycle engines. If you use standard green car coolant with silicates, the abrasive particles can destroy the delicate mechanical seal in your water pump, causing it to weep. A friend of mine ignored the coolant on his Harley Road Glide for 10 years. "It still looks orange," he said. One day, the bike overheated on a cross-country tour. The mechanic found that the coolant passages in the cylinder head were completely corroded and blocked with white aluminum oxide sludge. The engine was scrap. 2 years. Flush it. No excuses. Fluids are cheap, but skipping the next mechanical check requires tearing the head off the engine, and most riders are too scared to do it. Number 3. The valve clearance fear. This is the maintenance item everyone skips because it is expensive or difficult, checking the valves. But on an American high-revving engine, skipping this is a death sentence. Most people think valves get loose and noisy over time. The opposite is true. As the valves slam open and close millions of times, they actually hammer themselves deeper into the valve seats in the cylinder head. This causes the valve clearance, the gap between the cam and the valve lifter, to tighten. When the clearance gets too tight, the valve stays open slightly, even when it should be fully closed on the compression stroke. Hot combustion gases rush past the slightly open valve, acting like a blowtorch. This torches the edges of the valve. This is a burnt valve. Once a valve burns, you lose compression. The bike becomes hard to start when hot, loses power, and eventually dies. Fixing it requires removing the cylinder head, a massive, expensive job. The American manual usually calls for a check every 15,000 to 24,000 miles. Do it. If you check them and they are in spec, great. But if they are tight, adjusting them saves the engine. I bought a Harley Sportster that wouldn't start. The previous owner kicked and kicked until his leg fell off. I checked the valves. The intakes had zero clearance. I shimmed them back to spec and the bike started on the first kick. He sold it cheap because he feared the maintenance. Don't fear the valves, respect them. Mechanical sympathy is good, but babying the engine can actually choke it to death. Number 2. The fuel quality factor. Not all gas stations are created equal. American fuel injectors possess tiny precision-drilled holes to create a perfect mist for combustion. Cheap, budget gas often lacks the detergents needed to keep these injectors clean. It can contain high levels of sulfur and sediment. The secret is to use top-tier gasoline whenever possible. Brands like Shell, Chevron, and Exxon adhere to higher detergent standards that prevent carbon deposits on intake valves and keep injectors spraying perfectly. Also, pay attention to octane. If your manual says 87 octane, use 87. Putting 93 inches a bike designed for 87 does not make more power. It just makes the engine run richer and potentially causes carbon buildup because the fuel burns slower. If the manual says premium only, use premium. Pre-detonation knocking from low-octane fuel will destroy a piston in seconds. I tuned a Harley-Davidson V-Rod that was making poor power on the dyno. We drained the tank. It was full of cheap generic gas from a no-name station. We put in fresh Shell V-Power, and the bike picked up 3 horsepower and ran smoother instantly. Feed your horse the good hay. Fuel quality matters, but where you park the bike matters more than you think. Number 1. The Ride It Rule. A motorcycle is like a living organism. It needs to move to survive. The worst thing you can do to an American motorcycle is let it sit. The absolute best way to make a motorcycle last forever is to ride it regularly. Heat cycles keep the seals flexible. Circulating oil prevents rust. Fresh fuel prevents clogs. Getting the engine hot boils off the condensation in the oil. I have seen low-mileage garage queens with 2,000 miles that leak oil from every gasket and run terrible because they sat for 10 years. Conversely, I have seen Harley Road Kings with 300,000 miles that run like Swiss watches because they are ridden every single day. Do not save the bike for the next guy. Riding it is the maintenance. The mileage is a badge of honor, not a depreciation metric. The American engineers built it to move. Honor their work by twisting the throttle. Now tell me what you think about the 9 American secrets that make your motorcycle last forever in the comments. And if this reveal impressed you, get a sneak peek on the latest collection of 13 motorcycles that won't hurt your back and are now blowing up the automotive market. Sales popped on the upper left of your screen.